The NFC West continues to be the best division in football, with the Seahawks, Rams, and 49ers all winning at least 12 games during the regular season. All three of these teams each won a game in the playoffs, which is remarkable. The 49ers under Kyle Shanahan and the Rams under Sean McVay have each won multiple NFC Championship games, and the Seattle Seahawks just beat both of those teams back-to-back. Welcome to Josh's NFC West Breakdowns, where we let the film tell us what we're seeing. And what we saw on Sunday night was an NFC Championship game that ranked right up there with some of the best championship games we have seen throughout NFL history. The game opened with a quick 3-and-out by the Rams, and the Seattle Seahawks would get the ball and go right down the field and score. Here, Seattle is facing a 3rd down and 5, and we see Darius Williams in press coverage against Rashid Shaheed. And we've talked about this before. Anytime you're in the press, there is the risk that you could get beat deep. Rashid Shaheed has been a dynamic playmaker for the Seahawks this season, so rather sensibly, the Rams put 2 safeties back deep. But we see Cameron Kinchins step up. Why? Well, because of that 3rd and 5 we talked about. Here he's defending the line to gain, but all this means is that Rashid is the threat to go deep with no safety help to that side of the field. Sam Darnold immediately spots the mistake, and in back-to-back games in the playoffs, Rashid opens with a huge play for Seattle, just brought down. LA very fortunate he didn't take that thing to the house. It's possible he was brought down because Shaheed did have to slow up and wait for this football. Was this an inaccurate throw by Sam Darnold? Absolutely not. This is the exact way you want to do this. Once your man has beaten the defender deep, you throw up an absolute punt and just let him run under it, because Williams either is not going to get there or he's going to crash into the back of Shaheed, and then it would be a penalty for pass interference. And take a look at this. Shaheed also helps out his cause. Look at his hands. They're down by his sides. He gives the defender no idea the ball is coming until the last possible second. On the very next play, Darius Williams, understandably, this time gives his man a lot of space. Jackson Smith-Njigba this time. So Sam Darnold just raises up and quickly gets JSN the football, makes Williams miss, and then gains 16 yards on the play. And the Rams are, getting hit with some haymakers here. They're getting hit in the mouth on this opening drive. Seattle follows this up with a handoff to Ken Walker, and this is just an absolutely outstanding individual effort to get this ball down to the 2-yard line. The Seahawks reward Walker with another carry, but this time the Rams appear to have him corralled. Walker is forced to bounce, but we see Byron Young out there. It is not easy to beat Byron Young to the sideline. But take a close look. Young is facing the wrong direction, and Walker is able to outrace him to the pylon. Touchdown, Seahawks. And how about that? The defense opens the game with a 3-and-out, and the Seahawks go right down the field and score. The perfect way to start the NFC Championship game. It is no accident that these two teams are the teams playing in the NFC Championship Game. Seattle and LA, definitely the best 2 teams in the NFC this year. So it is also no surprise that the Rams would respond, and throughout this entire game they would respond. Here we see this time it's Devin Witherspoon in press coverage on Puka Nacua. And this time it's Seattle that has 2 safeties back deep. But Kobe Bryant would step up on this play, and again we see a corner beat. This time it's Witherspoon beaten by Nacua with no safety help to that side of the field. Shaheed went for 51 yards on that first play we looked at. This one to Nacua went for 44 yards. Now, you could take the viewpoint that these are mistakes being made by both defenses. I'm taking the view that both these defenses were playing very aggressively in this game. Either way, the play would put LA in position to attempt a field goal, and they knock it through. So they get on the board, and the score of the game is Seattle 7, Los Angeles 3. We were really treated in this game to outstanding play after outstanding play. Here, Omar Speights appears to have Ken Walker sized up, and Walker just makes him look silly. With multiple big plays already in this game, the Seahawks send 3 receivers deep on this play. But this is just to run off the defense. This is going to be a screen all the way to Ken Walker. And check out the offensive linemen. You know, by rule, they've got to stay within 1 yard of the original line of scrimmage. Well, here it is. You know, this is great execution. And both of these teams had great coaching, great execution, and great talent. You know, this was high-level football being played in this game. And as we've grown accustomed to seeing, we get another terrific one-handed catch by Jackson Smith-Njigba when the pass goes a little bit wide of the mark. But why was that pass wide? Well, let's go back and take a look from the other angle. Take a look at this. You know, we've praised quarterbacks like Matt Stafford and Brock Purdy on this channel for throwing the no-look pass. Well, how about Sam Darnold with a little bit of no-look pass, looks to the inside, throws this football to the outside, so maybe we can forgive him for being just a little bit off there. JSN makes a terrific catch, and the Seahawks are just rolling. And yeah, that catch was so good, nobody even realized in real time that that was a no-look pass. Well, almost nobody. To their credit, the Rams would come up with a stop in the red zone, so Seattle would tack on another field goal, extending their lead 10-3. All right, we're in the second quarter, but this is the very next drive. Neither of these teams is slowing down. At the top of your screen, we would again see tight coverage by Devin Witherspoon, this time on Davante Adams. And on this play, the Seattle Seahawks would send a blitz. Stafford's got to get rid of this football quickly. We see him winding up to throw. This is a great anticipation throw to Davante Adams. Stafford is cutting this thing loose before Adams has even made his break. It is tight coverage, but Adams is a big, tall, physical receiver. Witherspoon falls down, and Adams is off to the races. 23-yard gain on the play. But a few plays later, LA would be facing a 3rd down and 10. And Seattle, you know, they really played a great game. They did not try to do too much on defense. Here they leave 2 safeties back deep and just rush with their front 4. They do run a stunt up front. Interestingly, LA picks this up, but Stafford, unusually for a veteran of his caliber, gets happy feet and tries to leave the pocket early, dances around, and gets brought down by, who else, DeMarcus Lawrence. You know, Seattle has really found a special blend of perfection with outstanding veterans and talented young players and rookies. Oh, he fumbled the football there. LA very fortunate to pick it up, preserving a field goal attempt for them, which again, they would knock through. So they keep the score tight. Seattle 10, Los Angeles 6. And LA would get the ball back. Again, we see Stafford winding up to throw. Another great anticipation throw to Puka Nacua. It is, again, very tight coverage. It's a tight window throw. And we've seen Stafford do this throughout his entire career. He shows us that still, at age 37, he still has a cannon for an arm. The Seahawks have been pretty good against the run, but here Stafford is dropping back to pass, and what's another clue that this is a pass play? Take a look at the offensive line. High hats. These guys are pass protecting, so the defense for the Seahawks sits up, and Seattle gets surprised pretty badly when it turns out to be a running back draw to Blake Corum of all people, and it's a 19-yard chunk on the ground for LA. LA would finish off the drive by using more misdirection. They line everyone up very tight. They put a tight end and a running back in the backfield. This looks like a running play. You know, the last play looked like a pass. This one looks like a run. So Kobe Bryant, understandably here, steps up. And right at the snap, we see Kyren Williams and Colby Parkinson both take a look to their right. And again, Bryant heads in that direction. And for good measure, the Rams would have Puka Nacua run a pick play for Kyren Williams. Now, is this legal? Well, it is, as long as Nacua is just running a route. You could make an argument here that this is a little bit more than that. This could have been flagged. The officials decide to make a no call here. They don't want to involve themselves too much in a game of this importance. Now, I know what everybody's immediately thinking about. A certain penalty that was called later in the game, and we're going to talk about that, trust me. In the meantime, the touchdown does give LA the lead 13-10, so Seattle would take over with under a minute to go in the first half now. And remember, LA opened the game with that quick 3 and out, so the Seahawks will get the ball to start the second half. So even though the Rams have the lead now, Seattle has the opportunity here to score at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half. They have the opportunity to score twice in a row. They start out by putting Cooper Kupp in motion, and Quentin Lake goes with him, telling the Seahawks that LA is in man coverage. Kupp would go deep on the wheel route, but those tricky Rams have disguised their coverage. They're not playing man-to-man at all. They're actually in a zone. Seattle looks to be running the sail route, and Cam Curl is all over it. And that's unfortunate for Curl, because here Jackson Smith-Njigba hits him with the double move. It's a great plan for Seattle, but the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. Turn your attention to the pocket. We can see that Sam Darnold is in trouble, but he stays calm, climbs the pocket, and gets JSN the football. Takes the hit, hangs on to the football, and how about the toughness of Jackson Smith-Njigba? And finally, they have JSN for a touchdown on the post route. But again, turn your attention to the pocket. We can see that Byron Young is going to move Sam Darnold off his spot, and the two just can't quite connect on the play. Now facing second and goal, there's still 25 seconds left in the first half, so plenty of time to take a couple of shots at the end zone here. And the Rams must have felt Seattle was going to go back to the post route, because we see two defenders go at the post and nobody go with Jackson Smith-Njigba. Touchdown Seahawks. And you probably noticed JSN was lined up in the backfield on that play. So that does mean it's a longer developing route, and as a result, Jared Verse is able to get home to the quarterback, and we're actually going to zoom in on Verse here. This is great handwork from Jared Verse, but Sam Darnold stands tall in the pocket, takes the hit, and delivers the strike for a huge touchdown before the end of the first half, allowing Seattle to retake the lead 17-13. So there you have it, a clutch touchdown from Sam Darnold and the Seahawks right before the end of the first half, and we are in a very tight, competitive, and exciting NFC Championship game. Well, folks, if you're new here and you like what you see, please subscribe. We do these videos every week. It takes a long time to make a video like this, so if you could give me just 2 seconds of your time and hit that like button, I would truly appreciate it. And if you want to take a deep dive into this stuff, folks, we have a Patreon page where you can watch all of these videos 100% ad-free. There's a link in the description. I'd love to see you guys over there. All right, let's get right back into the game. The Seahawks open the third quarter with a chance to take a 2-score lead, but here they are facing a 3rd down and 12. And we can see pretty quickly here that Sam Darnold is under tremendous pressure in the pocket. He does appear to have a lane and he stays calm and again just tries to step up and take some of that green grass in front of him, but he's just tripped up and brought down for the sack. So the Seahawks would have to punt to the LA Rams. And we see Xavier Smith call for the fair catch, but you still have to actually catch the football. He appears to have misjudged the flight of the ball in the air. When you're catching a fly ball, you always need to be back a little bit further than you think you need to. That ball has a tendency to go over your head. That looks like that's what happened here. And one of the hardest things to do is to try to run backwards. And sure enough, he trips and falls backwards. Muff, and the Seahawks recover. Oh my goodness. I said special teams would be a factor in this game, and was it ever? Derek Young with the recovery for the Seahawks. Kenneth Walker had 3 touchdowns against the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round of the playoffs. Here in the conference championship game, he has another one already against the LA Rams. Los Angeles knows how dangerous he is in the red zone, and the Seahawks bring in 2 extra tight ends. They've got Walker lined up in the backfield. The Rams cannot allow him to get the ball and score on this play, so they commit a lot of their defenses to stopping the run. A 6-man rush and 2 linebackers. Of course, this means they still have to account for the extremely dangerous Jackson Smith and Jigba. The Rams make the wise decision to double cover JSN. This leaves Jake Bobo one-on-one, and just look at the move he puts on Kobe Durant. Whew, see you later. Touchdown Seahawks, and this is exactly what Seattle wanted. A touchdown at the end of the first half and a touchdown to open the third quarter. They go up by 2 scores now, 24-13. The team was fired up, the stadium was fired up, the atmosphere was extreme, and the defense is poised to make a huge play here. LA took advantage of this. They faked the handoff to Kyron Williams, and we see a huge response by the defense, and this does leave them vulnerable to some deeper routes. Stafford has his choice here of either Kanata Mumfield or Colby Parkinson. He takes the easier throw to Parkinson. This is actually a nice recovery by Josh Joe, but Stafford just gets it over his outstretched arm, and it's a big gain for the Rams. Now, before we look at this next play, we're going to go back to the Rams' wildcard game against the Carolina Panthers. Just before the end of the first half there, they needed a big play. We see 2 receivers left, a tight end, and a running back in the formation, and Puka Nacua would hit Carolina with the double move. And he drops it, just can't bring it in. All right, let's come back to the Seattle game, and here we see 2 receivers left. It's the same formation. The only difference is they've flipped a tight end to the other side, and this time it's Devontae Adams who hits the defense with the double move. In both instances, Stafford throws a dime, and it's a big catch by Adams, brought down just short of the goal line, right at the 2. Another big chunk for the Rams. And here it almost looks as if Davante Adams might be running the pick play for Kanata Mumfield. The defense for Seattle has to just play this a little bit safe here. They hang back just barely here, but it allows Adams to use his size and his speed to run away from the defense. And it's a touchdown for LA. The Rams climb right back in it, making the score 24-20. But at this point in the game, Seattle's offense was red hot. Again, we see JSN lined up in the backfield. Now they motion him out, but the last time they lined up Jackson Smith-Njigba in the backfield was right before the end of the half when we saw that post route paired with the route to the back corner. Here, the Rams aren't buying it. Why? The reason they're not buying it is because it's short yardage. It's 2nd down and 1. They know that this ball is almost certainly going to Ken Walker. So again, we see the same big response from the defense to try to stop the run. If Seattle were to, run a post and another deep shot to the corner, the safety would cover the post and the corner would cover Jackson Smith-Njigba. And take a look at this corner. We're actually going to watch him take a step back here at the snap. And it turns out the Rams, in a way, got it right, but not in the way they think. Seattle doesn't take a deep shot here. Instead, this is just going to be a swing pass out to JSN. Cooper Kupp will block for him on the wide receiver screen, and now we instantly see there's 2 offensive players in the area of just 1 defender. Great block by Kupp. JSN gets by, and that little pass in the backfield gains 12 yards on the play. Clint Kubiak just seemed to be a step ahead of Chris Shula for virtually the entire game. And here on 3rd and 3, Sam Darnold has some good options. We see Rashid Shaheed heading for the end zone. McCreary's there, no reason to force that throw whatsoever. He's got both JSN and Cooper Kupp underneath for first downs. He takes the throw to Kupp. Kupp gets north and south and takes it in for a touchdown. And the Seahawks go up big again by a score of 31-20. Quentin Lake never carried Kupp through the zone. The zone just let Cooper Kupp run right through it. So again, the place is rocking. The team is fired up, but they don't want to make another mistake on defense. So they play this a little bit differently than they did the last time. We actually see some guys hanging back. They only rush with 4. We see some defenders hanging back. But what's going on with Devin Witherspoon down here? We see him, up by Davante Adams, but he's not quite in press coverage. He actually looks a little bit flat-footed here. Let's rewind just a little bit here. Now, we actually see him moving forward here at the snap of the football. You definitely don't want to be doing that. I think his intention was to get up right on the line, right across from Davante Adams, and I think Stafford snapped this football a little bit quicker than the Seahawks were expecting. You see that? He's never able to get up to the line of scrimmage, get his hands on him, or jam him. He's moving forward at the snap of the football, so Adams is able to go right by him. And it's a 35-yard gain on the play. This Rams team is obviously extremely talented, but from this angle, we would get another clue as to what happened. We see Kobe Bryant drop down while Julian Love rotates into a single high safety look. So now we've got Adams open deep on the play with no safety help to that side of the field. In fact, this was an interesting call by the Seahawks. They tried a post-snap coverage shift just to try to throw something different at the Rams, but Stafford snapped the ball, again, I think just a little bit sooner than they were expecting it, and it just didn't quite work. And here we get to a huge moment in the game. There's really no other way to say it. It's 3rd and long for the Rams. Riq Woolen almost comes up with the pick, but this felt like a huge defensive stop. Both of these offenses were really trading blows, but the Seahawks had a 2-score lead at this point. We're heading to the fourth quarter, so this was a big defensive stop, especially since Seattle's offense was red hot. We see, the players congratulating Riq Woolen here. That's fine. And I've got to show you, I don't have footage of this from the All-22 angle. I'm going to show you some broadcast footage here. I'm really usually not supposed to do this. I have to have a good reason to do it. And I think this is definitely reason enough, because after this, we see Riq Woolen coming down the side here. Now we see the official warn him, and he warns him because you're not allowed to do this. You cannot run down your opponent's sideline. You definitely can't step into their area. This is pretty consistently enforced in the NFL across the board. You just plain can't do it. And we see the flag come out. This would be correctly called for taunting, which would give the Rams 15 yards, but more importantly, an automatic first down. A huge penalty right after Seattle had appeared to make a major stop defensively in the football game. Now look, I know a lot of folks disagree with the call. There's people who will say they don't think taunting should be a part of the game, because now you're impacting something, a potential score in the game with something that's unrelated to anything that happened on the field. So I understand that perspective, but the rule as written was properly enforced here. It is consistently enforced, not only this year, but year in and year out. You're never allowed to go down your opponent's sideline like that. It's almost always called whenever it happens, even in a big game like this. It is what it is. But I want to hear from you in the comments. I read every comment, so tell me what you think. Do you think this was the correct call? Do you think the rule needs to be changed? Let me know what you guys are thinking on this. Now, if you want to play corner in the NFL, you have to have a short memory, right? Because you're going to give up some big plays, and you've got to go right back out there the next play and line up and play. I understand that, but this was a huge moment in a game that, is either going to lead to the Super Bowl or not. So I think we have to respect the fact that Riq Woolen is a human being here. And, the Seahawks, maybe they should have pulled him out of the game for a play just to get him calmed down. They leave him in, and the Rams went right after him. So let's take a look at Puka Nacua here, because this is great technique as well on his part. Outside foot back, he's going to take 5 steps. Count them with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Goes to the post, and Riq Woolen bites on the move. Unfortunate, because this is a perfectly executed post corner route by Puka Nacua. Touchdown Los Angeles, and this titanic back and forth struggle continues. Seattle still leads it, but now the score is Seattle 31, Los Angeles 27. During Seattle's next drive, we would move into the fourth quarter. The Rams bring Cam Kinchins on the blitz, and he throws Sam Darnold down. No penalty there. Now, the crowd really hated this at the end as he was celebrating his sack. They just saw Riq Woolen get called for taunting. Was this taunting as well? Again, if we're talking about a technical application of the rule, the answer is no, right? He's not standing over the player. You're allowed to celebrate a sack. Now, could the officials have called it to try to keep control of the game? That I could almost see. Again, if we're just going by the letter of the law, no, this is not taunting, and I understand why the crowd was upset, but again, this was, in my view, a good no call. But again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Maybe I'm not seeing the forest for the trees here. Should this be taunting? And if so, should this have been called? 2 plays later, Seattle would have to punt back to the Rams. LA would take over with just over 12 minutes left in the game, and they would go on a monster drive that would take over 7 minutes off the clock. Nakua would go out at the 12-yard line, so LA would have 1st and 10 at the 12 yards away from a Super Bowl appearance. Stafford gets the ball to Nakua. It's a 6-yard gain, so now they would be facing a 2nd down and 4. And they would hand it to Kyren Williams. A great call that would take time off the clock and inch their way closer to the goal line, but no, this play is actually stuffed for no gain. And from this angle, we get a great look. Tyrese Knight penetrated so quickly, he completely disrupted the play, bringing Williams down for no gain. This brings up a 3rd down and 4. I keep wanting to call it 3rd and goal. It's 3rd and 4. The Rams could actually get a 1st down here. So again, Seattle just plays very sensibly on defense. They rely on that great defensive line. They only rush with 4. They drop 7 back into coverage, giving Matt Stafford nowhere to go with the football. Stafford does try to give Mumfeld a one-on-one shot, but the pass is broken up by Devin Witherspoon. Little bit chaotic here, and I get he's throwing on the run, but these are pretty terrible throwing mechanics from Stafford, and as a result, the ball hangs to the inside where Witherspoon is able to make a play on the football. And finally, it is 4th down, and here Seattle only rushes with 3. Well, after the game, Sean McVay said that he felt Seattle made a mistake here with 2 defenders going with Kyren Williams. It does look like LA expected probably Julian Love to continue here. Kyren Williams could have gone to the outside. Unclear why he didn't. Either way, the play is disrupted. The timing is disrupted. The timing of the whole play is off now, so Stafford has to turn his attention elsewhere. It might look for a split second like Terrence Ferguson has a step on Devin Witherspoon here, but again, Spoon comes up big in the clutch. He's in great position here to undercut this route. Incomplete pass, and Seattle is going to take over on downs. Now, what do I think about Sean McVay's comments after the game? Well, I thought they were in poor taste. You know, he was trying to say that Seattle made a mistake on the play. Well, if that's true, then the Rams should have been able to exploit that mistake, right? There's a saying in the game of chess that the winner of a chess game is the person who makes the second to last mistake. Yes, there were some mistakes made in this game, but you know what? This was an outstanding game by 2 great teams, and the Seattle Seahawks were just the better team on the field on this day. On the most critical game of the year, the Seahawks played their best game of the year. They were awesome in this game. And to try to say, well, you know, they made a mistake on 4th down and that's why they won, I thought that was in poor taste by Sean McVay, and I don't think it accurately reflects the game as a whole. With just over 4 minutes left in the game, the Seahawks would like to run out the clock, and they surprised me a little bit by calling a number of passes on this drive. Surprising to me, of course, because an incomplete pass would stop the clock. But Sam Darnold was clutch at the end of the game. So let's take a look at some of these passes that Seattle used to win the game. First of all, we see a couple of players going deep. No, Seattle isn't looking to take a 40-yard shot down the field. This is just to run off the defense. This play was always designed for Ken Walker. So they're still getting the football into their running back's hand. They're just doing it in a different way. And if you're Byron Young, you have got to make this tackle here. But Ken Walker has just been playing so well down the stretch here. He makes him miss, makes Spates miss, makes a third man miss, and then fights for 1 extra yard at the end. Absolutely outstanding. 2 plays later, LA would use their first timeout. With 3:20 to go, Seattle would be facing a 3rd down and 7, and Darnold would get this ball just past the outstretched arms of Kobe Durant. And it was here that LA would use their second timeout. After a short Ken Walker run, the Rams would use their final timeout, so with 3:05 left here, facing a 2nd and 10, I thought for sure Ken Walker was getting this football again, and That's what the Rams D was expecting too. So with a big response like this, it means they now have to cover JSN one-on-one. And Sam Darnold makes a nice throw on the run to get him the football. And importantly here, JSN goes down inbounds and the clock continues to run. And with time winding down and approaching the 2-minute warning on 2nd and 7, I think the whole world expected a run here. Again, they fake it to Ken Walker. It takes the Rams by surprise, and Cooper Kupp is able to beat Kobe Durant, so Durant just grabs and holds on for dear life. This was egregious, and the penalty would be called, giving Seattle an automatic first down. They're able to take a bunch more time off the clock before finally punting it back to LA, who would have a last gasp here with just 10 seconds left in the game and needing a touchdown. Realistically, they need to get this ball to the 50-yard line so Stafford can take a shot at the end zone on a Hail Mary attempt, and they need to execute this play within 10 seconds and get out of bounds to stop the clock. Could the Rams realistically pull something like this off? Yes, they are that good. Take a look. They get the ball to the 50, but Devin Witherspoon tackles Nacua in bounds. Witherspoon was awesome here down the stretch. The official winds the clock. The game is over, and the Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl. Wow, you know, folks, I was just thinking that I've seen a lot of these great NFC Championship games over the years. I've been a fan of the game of football for almost my entire life, and especially the history of the game. And this has to rank up there as one of the best NFC Championship games ever. It's right along some of the other great games we've seen over the years. Exciting and competitive throughout. And the decision by Sean McVay to go for it on 4th down at the end of the game, I don't really have a problem with that. You know, they didn't really get the ball back until there wasn't any time, and they didn't have any timeouts anyway, so it wasn't really a factor. Seattle, either way, successfully ran the clock out after that sequence of events. Much less concerning than the decision Sean Payton made to go for it instead of kicking the field goal in Denver earlier during the AFC Championship game, which of course meant that the New England Patriots would win that game, and they will face the Seattle Seahawks for the second time in the Super Bowl. Wow, it's going to be two incredible defenses going at it. Again, in those types of situations, I like to give the edge to the team with the better special teams, which, as we all know by now, is the Seattle Seahawks. And of course, Seattle's got that tremendous running game. Ken Walker really just outstanding in the absence of Zach Charbonnet. This team is really clicking right now. And there's one name I haven't mentioned yet, but I have definitely not forgotten the play of Sam Darnold in this game. His numbers were almost identical to Matt Stafford's. Both threw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. But Darnold was just a little bit better. Stafford only completed 62% of his passes. Sam Darnold completed 69% of his passes. What a tremendous game. He continues to grow as a quarterback, the only quarterback in NFL history to go 14-3 twice in back-to-back seasons. Again, truly remarkable. The Seahawks, what an amazing team they have. We talked about it at the top of this video. The other two juggernauts in the NFC were in the same division, and Seattle was champions of that division. They are the NFC West champions. Now they're champions of the NFC, and they might be champions of the entire league, you know, come Super Bowl Sunday. We will just have to wait and see. Well, folks, if you have taken the time to sign up for the Patreon page, I can't thank you enough. Your support allows me to take the time to do these videos right, to give you the quality that you deserve. You humble me and you honor me. From the bottom of my heart, I truly appreciate it. It has been an amazing season. All right, the Seahawks and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. This is going to be amazing. I really can't wait. I expect mostly a defensive game. These are two of the best defenses in the NFL going at it against one another. Of course, both these offenses are entirely capable as well, and I think each team will have some wrinkles ready to go for this game. Maybe some trick plays. We like to see those in the Super Bowl. So we will see some scoring, but mostly a defensive game. Again, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but in a game like this, got to give the edge to the special teams. So, All right, folks, I don't know what's going to happen during the Super Bowl. I'm going to be excited to watch it just like all the rest of you are. It's Super Bowl Sunday. It's pretty much a national holiday. You know, enjoy time with your friends, eat some good food, enjoy the commercials. And either way, no matter what happens in this game, we're going to be here to break down the film. And I'll see you guys then.